Hey there, y'all. Eric, our functional farmhouse. Why am I in front of my Ram with my hood open? Well, honestly, I've been having an issue with my Carli suspension e-Venture, and I want to say, look, this ain't a diss track. I don't want to go there, but I am wildly frustrated with the customer service and support on the SDI side of this. Dan and the guys at Carli and support have been amazing. I had a couple of little issues with the setup, and they responded and took care of the Carli stuff like that. Phenomenal customer service. Super stoked. And as a customer service guy, it resonated. It was awesome. Now, I've been having this transient issue, and I'd reached out to Carli in May. It's September now, and they said, hey, we don't service that, go to SDI. Fine, fair enough. I would just like to say, again, as a customer service guy, I bought a product from Carli, and that's great that they have a relationship between Carli and SDI, but Eric and SDI don't have a relationship, in my opinion. I've had other issues where companies do that. I had a contractor put this fence in over here, and I don't know why there we go. And they put a gate in, and the subcontractor did the gate. And there was a problem with the gate, and I called the contractor, and the contractor's like, well, that's this guy. I'm like, I don't fucking care, bro. I hired you to do it. You hired that guy, so I need you to make it right. So this isn't a diss track at anybody. They're back to working with me. However, we've been focusing on what I think is the wrong issue. And again, retired master mechanic, 51,000 hours working on high-end non-exotic automobiles at the highest levels. And I know a thing or two, and I've been trying to explain to these folks that, like, hey, I'm on your team. Let's diagnose this. And if it's as simple as like a $50 wire harness, why didn't we just get that done? So I'm out here. I've got, one of my wiring kits. I'm going to be back probing all the wiring, and I've already sent them a lot of images and whatnot. And I know these guys want to get it done, and Dan over at Carli had said, hey, keep me in the loop. But I've sold 1,000 of these, and we've never seen it, which again is kind of feeling like shooting the messenger. I bought this product. I installed it per their directions, and let's just pretend I didn't have the 51,000 hours of experience. 16 years consecutive AAA 100% customer satisfaction, a field people hate, 60,000 in Snap-on tools. Let's pretend I didn't have any of that experience, and I was just a dude who could have made a mistake. And, I'm not perfect. Maybe I fucked it up. Maybe I did. But, I would think if this company has amazing customer service, and having had the taste of that, I felt like it's a little short on this, and it's just kind of been like, yeah, man, you screwed it up, so that's what you get. Not, hey, wait, we built a really cool product. Our instructions are amazing. Our packaging is without peer, so there's no way it got damaged in transit. And it was bench tested before it left here. So it's really looking like this guy, if we're going to look at Occam's razor, what is the simplest solution to this equation? It's I messed it up, user error. So whether it is or not, and if it is, I'll buy the damn part. I don't freaking care. I just want it to work properly. So I've got, again, my test equipment, and I'm going to be back probing. Just as an example, so this is an OBD2 connector that goes to the SDI side, and these pins in here are wildly tiny. But I just want to prove, like, this is the kind of test equipment I'm using. Those are on there. I have a positive connection in here. I'm not using garbage shit. I'm doing everything. And so part of this process, I was told that I got these things called amp steps. This is a 2,500 3-inch lift on 37s. It's tall. My wife is not tall. I gotta have them. So I asked, what do you guys use? So they recommended this OBD2 splitter to me. And I said, I'll just buy the damn thing to eliminate that. If you guys like those, hey, I'll put it in. And from a cost perspective, honestly, the ones I had bought cost more. That doesn't mean they're better. But I like the ones I bought, and let me show you why. So the one I bought specifically is the OE style. So when I stick this into the OE spot down here, it's just like the factory truck. Again, I'm a stickler for things to be correct. So I'm gonna use my previous one on the back end, and I've got my amp step connector. This is taped. I take this truck off road, we boogie, and it bounces. And I don't want problems with connectivity and things shaking loose. So I would use zip ties preferably. I don't like the goo this tape uses, and I do have felt tape that is non-residue. And then I'm gonna use the SDI recommended splitter to go to the SDI plug. But first, I'm just gonna back probe all the wiring, because I'm having this problem where my display up here is getting an output from the system that is not rational. And because it's not rational, the truck thinks, and this is part of the algorithm that SDI uses, and it's a really smart way they did this, is it uses the attitude sensor as the primary input on vehicle change. And as it sees vehicle pitching, rolling, tilting, miles per hour brake input, and any other things they're sniffing off the CAN bus on the OBD2, it can react and adjust the dampening to do so. And the way it does it is really works great. But when it's unloaded and not doing the attitude the truck is saying it is, the dampening starts going crazy. And when it's empty, I live on this windy road. I've got another famous YouTuber who loves shooting videos out here. He lives around the corner. And I'm bouncing around. It's not high speed, but you can feel the dampening, especially in the rear. It just locks, it just gets really firm. So Eric cannot simultaneously have a perfectly functioning system and one that is acting abnormally. Now, SDI, when I first brought to their attention, they shipped me a new attitude sensor without any problem. And then they triaged or, forensic analyzed the one I sent back. They said it was fine. Okay, fair enough. That wasn't the problem. Well, we've been focusing on the output, and I think we should be focusing on the input side. So again, this ain't a diss track. I'm putting this together because, Carli said they've sold 1,000 of these, and if I'm the first guy to screw it up, hey, I'll admit it. But I just want to check. I just want it to be right. So that's what I'm out here doing. I want to explain that I'm using, OE quality. I'm using a fluke meter. I'm not using some Chinese stuff. I'm using high quality stuff. Again, this is how I used to make a living and keep a roof over my head. And I feel that I'm decently capable in that aspect. So I want to make this to share this information, and I'm going to share what I find. And if I eat crow, so be it. No big deal. But if this can help someone else out there, also that I feel that's worthwhile information. So I'm going to start testing stuff, and if something of note comes up, I will start a video. And at the end of this, so as I'd mentioned, and it was in the Truth About Carli 6,000 mile update video, I showed a video of the attitude display. And this has been a transient problem for me, right? So again, huge automotive background. The first thing I'm looking for is correlatable data. Does it do it at 35 miles an hour on Tuesdays when the air temperature is this high and the truck's warmed up or not? Or it only doesn't when I go to the gas station, I get vanilla ice cream, that kind of stuff that you've heard and read about. I'm super in tune with that, and I've been trying to take notes. And there's zero, it does it when it wants. It does it on cold days. It does it on hot days. It does it at cold start. It does it after 5 hours towing my toy hauler. Sometimes it calms down. Sometimes it acts up for the whole day. And when I've been acting up, I'm 400 miles from home towing on Highway 395. I'm not going to pull over with the kids and the wife and the dog at 105-degree heat and start disassembling connectors and BS like that. So today, I'm finally, we're in September, and I've been bringing this, so May, June, July, August, so 4 months that there hasn't been a resolution. And it's frustrating for a guy like me. And, It just is. So I'm going to see what I can see, and I'm hoping to find some kind of fault so we can just get a resolution and I can pass it on to them. And, you know, they don't want to hear from me. That's fine. But I do feel, as a consumer who bought one of the more expensive lift suspension systems on the market for these trucks, that I deserve, you know, I didn't get a discount. This isn't sponsored. I don't owe anybody anything. I think we deserve a product that is functioning the way it was intended and the way it was sold. So I've called everybody. CJC hasn't seen it. Carli certainly says they haven't seen it, and SDI say they haven't seen it. And while they may not be trying to brush me off, I've been getting the feeling, again, this is 4 months in, I've been getting the feeling that it's like, you know, this guy's full of shit. We're not going to waste our time with this hack. So, you know, I'm going to go to work here and we'll see what we see. All right, y'all. Hey, yay me, glasses. I'm just back here. So I'm starting the wiring back probing. And ideally, having a pinout would be nice, but yeah, you don't need that. We're going on a fishing mission, if we're going to quote the Field Days Hoo Doggy, as my son likes to call them. And so just to give you guys a little idea and see what I'm seeing. So we're back here. I've got my fluke meter set, and I have found the pin. So I found the first OBD2 pin, and we found the second pin. So what you're gonna hear is the meter. I have it to beep. We have 0.3 ohms, and this fluke meter is really accurate. And what I've found in my long-term experience is all of these interfaces. So this pin is replaceable. This goes in here. This is another interface. So we have a connection point. We have another connection point. And then we have multiply that out. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm going to back probe all of the things I can see that make a sense as far as an input. I'm not going to back probe the shocks. That's not a concern. I've already tested power, ground, and remote, and I've already tested the display. So I'm just going to go through here all the way through. We're gonna test it all through all these connectors, because they have to have these to go under the seat. And I think this is a really smart way. They use best in class OE connections. This is something that you'd see on a European vehicle. The wiring is very well done. I'm very pleased with the quality. This is an expensive product, and they did a great job with it. There's no denying that. I think this is probably, you know, compared to the amp steps, the amp step wiring leaves a lot to be desired, especially the wiring outside of the vehicle, honestly. It works. They've got a track record. I would prefer to see higher quality stuff. If amp did this, I'd give them, you know, 100%. But anyway, I'm going to keep going, and just, again, if we see something, we see something. So some of y'all might have seen this in the beginning. Why does Eric have all these different test connectors? Well, all of these connector ends are different. And if you're doing any kind of pin probing like this, you want to have a tight interface to eliminate potential for erroneous errors. And what you're going to see, if you have something loose, you're going to see your ohm readings fluctuate. So we want to eliminate that by using the right tools. So, and again, to show you guys up here, this is the IMU connector. Here's my probe. You can see how snug those two pins are, because they are the correct pin for that plug. They're the right diameter, they're fitting, it's a tight interface. I'm not stretching the female end of that plug, but I know I'm good. So when I take readings here, I know they're going to be true. So I figured, you know, some folks don't know that. You know, the fluke meters come with pins. There's all sorts of different sizes. We have penetrating ones that can go through the wiring, which I do not like to do, because now not only are you piercing the sheath of the wire, but you can break and damage the conductor in the wire. So we want to avoid that. So the way this is, we're doing it safely and, you know, basically at the best practice. Food for thought. All right, so I've back probed any of the inputs that are relevant, OBD2 plug and this IMU plug. And I have the white wire, which I believe is a bus wire, is at 120 ohms, and the other three, power and ground, and the blue are all 0.4, 0.5. So they're direct. They do have a resistor on the CAN bus side on the display for 120 ohms. So I don't know why this one, that may be accurate, but it is changing. The truck is at operating temp. It is absolutely sweltering. So the truck is at 186 when I pulled it over here. Yesterday was the hottest day of the year here. We hit 111 and change. It's about 98 right now. So it's hot. And as we could see that ohm reading going up and down, there could be a problem in that wiring. And that's through the whole system. That's from that IMU plug to the ECU plug. That may or may not be a thing. I'm going to contact them before I publish this video and see what that means. So maybe we're getting somewhere. All right, we're putting the vehicle back together. We have SDI approved splitter taped to the OE vehicle side male. I have the SDI input on their connector, and then my amp steps are going to my preferred one, so I can stitch this guy back because it has the clips, and I prefer as close to an OE setup as possible. So yeah, I'm gonna wait to hear back from them, and we'll see what they say. We're gonna disassemble this because their allegation is I installed it improperly. So maybe that's the case. We're gonna video it and see what we see. I did have a rat up here poop on this battery. It is possible that something has gotten in, but we're gonna go ahead and remove this entire wire harness, and we're gonna get this on the bench, and we're gonna see what happened along the way here. Again, we're at a stalemate where I think there's an issue, they think there's an issue, and my final communication was, you know, what does this damn wire even cost? I'll just buy the damn thing. I'm just like, I just want to get a resolution to this. So let's see. And we are down here. Which one is, here we go. And again, cutting these, we don't want to have any issues with the wiring. Looks like that zip tie got a little loose. We're gonna get that there. Oop. All right, we're hooked up there. Let's see if we can feed this down without snagging anything else, because this connector does have to go back through the firewall. And where were we? All right, we are free and clear here. Let's grab our cutters and let's come inside the truck. We have to pull this through. We're gonna get a light for this. If you haven't used one of these stream lights, y'all, these are really nice. All right. And again, I had bundled all these together to keep them all tight, secure, and to give everything some mass so it's all together. I'm gonna pop this through now so I don't have to chase it later. One of the plus sides about being lifted on 37s is I can get the fender liner out without taking the wheel off. That was pleasant. Okay. We go there. And we have all of this bundle, my amps, and all of the E-Venture bundled together. And if you're out there in YouTube land and you're seeing something I'm not seeing, holler in the comments. Let me know. I wasn't drinking beer when I was installing this. Okay, so we have the IMU plug. We have the data line that is already pretty much removed. Don't want to be dropping these. And I need to unhook my OBD2 plug. Again, you remember we had taped this up earlier, and where is my termination? It's the bottom. There it is. That tape gets a little hard to see sometimes. And just for the record, when I had assembled this, this is their recommended plug, and it's not fitting that tight. I'm not a super big fan, and I didn't have connectivity the first time around. I had to get back in there, disconnect it, and retape it. But I haven't seen that mode issue. Just collecting my zip ties and whatnot to show that I did in fact want this not to have to come back out. I was careful. Over tensioning zip ties by hand is not impossible, but it can happen, and generally you want these zip ties snug. I do have a tightening tensioning tool with a cutter. This is not the context that I would be using it for. These are all done by hand. And now we have to hope that we can get this out. So I'm going to go ahead. We are going to this termination point. I'm going to shut off and just pull this out. All right, y'all. We have pulled apart everything to check based on a number of interactions. Now, I will say that this barrel connector was one of the first things they had indicated, and checking this resistor for resistance was what we had been chasing down. Now, I'll have to find a still picture, but there was a piece of heat shrink covering this resistor up. And I had asked on the Carli suspension group, should I be destructive testing, basically. So ultimately what had occurred is this blue wire coming into this terminal, I was able to get a full turn on this screw in this connector. Now this thing gets buttoned up, and had I not, you know, the heat shrink was holding it in, and we weren't really having any failures. I wasn't seeing anything with the voltmeter until we cut that heat shrink back. Now, in the process, you know, I said I was going to eat crow in this. I'll eat the crow that I didn't tear into that with a razor blade and start checking. That was my failure on this. However, in this process of multiple months, I've got a 44 long email chain with SDI. And, you know, the allegations were I hadn't installed this correctly. I had shorted some wiring, you know, because we kept resistance testing. We kept looking at the wiring, and that is more than likely the problem. So I've got this whole thing torn apart. You know, we've got the whole ECU torn apart to make sure we didn't have anything crossing over. And there we are. So I've got an email out to the SDI guys and to Carli to see, do they want me to just reassemble this? Because I can. Or if they feel that it should be replaced, if that was it. And, you know, so part of the process in all this was that, you know, these all get assembled and they bench test everything before it goes out the door. Great. Something got missed, though, in this. And having claims levied for, you know, I didn't do my end correctly, where this was inside this plug. You would never open this plug up as an end user. So, you know, is that it? You know, I've got 4 months of back and forth, and we just want to get it right. So I'm going to wait to see. I haven't gotten a response back in the last couple of days from either Carli or SDI. So we'll see. We'll see how this ends, because we just wanted a resolution from the beginning, and being told that, you know, 1,000 plus of these never installed, never had a problem. They've never seen it, bench tested, couldn't possibly be the fault. When in fact this was kind of brought up and not re-emphasized by either of us to chase down. So again, I did check it. I've had that connector apart multiple times, checking resistance, and without tearing it apart with a razor blade, I never would have found that. Nor was it suggested to check the tightness of those terminals. And I didn't think, based on all their end, that could be a problem. So there we are on that. All right, y'all, finally got some shade over here. So I'm starting to reassemble the harness. There's nothing wrong with the ECU one. I found my felt automotive tape. This is like tack-free gaffer tape. And I had mentioned that I had a razor blade, a zip tie tensioning tool. So this is what that looks like if you haven't seen it. So there's a little clipper in here. I'm not gonna, how this would work is you would pull on it. This is already tensioned by hand. I'm not adding anything else. And then when you're done, push that through, clips that off relatively flush, and there you go. So because I cut open and cut back, well, I cut the, I'm just going to use this felt tape on this. You know, this is an OE. I have this type of sheathing in my 12-volt electrical kit, but without disassembling this connector, kind of difficult to get over. So I'm just going to tape this up with the felt tape, and then we'll put this back in the truck, and we'll see what we do with this guy. All right, good afternoon, y'all. Kind of an apropos shirt for this part of the video. How does this chapter of the SDI eVenture Carli story end? Well, I'm going to tell you it's going to end like this. So I finally got a hold of the engineer from SDI, and we had a great conversation. He called. They asked me for my phone number well over a week ago, and again, I had felt like being completely ignored while taking photos of the problem almost every day or every other day of driving the truck, and just continually being told, no, you screwed it up, it's not ours, it's not that. And if we look at the Webster Dictionary textbook definition of defective, their wiring harness was defective. It just was. Was I able to repair it after destroying part of it, aka cutting the heat shrink apart with a razor blade, which is destructive in nature? Again, textbook definition. You don't have to like it. Yeah, Eric, man, you're kind of bitching and moaning. You're kind of a prick, dude. Like, you guys are blah, blah, blah. Like, maybe you haven't had this problem. I don't feel like being ignored. I don't like my emails being left on read. I don't like being told shit's going to get handled and delegated to someone who's not handling it. That's me. A good friend of mine, hey, I'm a dick, not an asshole, until I'm an asshole. And I've tried not to be that. And so, anyway, I finally got the engineer. We had a great conversation. And halfway through this conversation, he told me, wow, you're giving me more information than I'm giving you, which is typical of my interactions in these things. These folks, their typical cohort in the motorsports industry is not someone like me. So they generally don't give the deference to. Anyway, so I had asked the engineer, I said, look, I'm not telling you have to give me new parts, but I'm going to ask you, is SDI comfortable with me reinstalling this as it is? And he said yes. So it's only been 2 days. I've only driven the truck once. So far, so good. And, it just, overall experience, top to bottom. What is my review of the system? When the suspension system is working like it's intended, I think the eVenture SDI setup is freaking phenomenal in an 8,000 pound truck. This thing boogies, period. Carli already has a reputation on the hard part suspension side, and they build an amazing product, and they have amazing customer service on that product, which I have personally experienced. And, everything, again, this isn't a diss track. This is my experience based on facts, not feelings. And I know some of these guys, there's a little ego. I'm not saying who has ego involved. I certainly don't think the Carli guys do. But I think the delegation was to someone in this other company who didn't have the technical capacity to be helping. And the engineer said he should have been involved sooner, and we could have had this discussion, and we could have made everybody happy. And again, I'm not trying to waste anyone's time. I'm trying to get the results I'm after. So SDI, my review of SDI started off pretty good, kind of degraded, went to in writing, and I got the screenshot in there that I messed up the install, which is why I removed it, to validate that. And the engineer seemed positive. I sent him an email with some thoughts and a couple videos, a whole bunch of pictures on how and why the way we were testing things was giving us the positives at the time. And then we figured out why we were getting the false positives. And in my opinion, that was a defective termination of that one connector. Does this seem petty to you? Maybe. Do you buy stuff and it doesn't work and just move along about your day? Good for you. So we want it to work. We're going to put a pin in this chapter and wrap this up, and just want to go along. But again, and I told the engineer, I said, look, if someone like me screwed this up, I think that'd be worthwhile for y'all to understand that there's a common denominator part of a potential failure point where they could harden something and be like, hey, these cables at this length could have a propensity for getting, compressed by a interior body clip. have a abrasion point in sheet metal or something like that. So there it is. This is a long-winded video. I think it's all entirely relevant. At the end of the day, would I buy this Carli eVenture setup again? I 100% would. And I would expect a faster resolution to these things and not being told, we've never seen it, blah, blah, blah. Like, well, we are seeing it, guys. We were seeing it. And being the 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 2,000 is still a failure. And I don't feel like that was addressed in a manner I was expecting. And again, having a bunch of emails being left unread, y'all, that's on you. So don't be coming in my comments being butthurt on saying something wrong. I've been very careful in reading the cadence and all way all this was. And honestly, I pulled a couple of these videos out because my ego was coming up a little bit. So there it is. I'm going to continue to enjoy the truck, and you know, we'll see if there's anything that comes up. I've got a direct line to the SDI engineer, which I think is valuable now, because I'm not here to call them up and chat bullshit and drink beer. I got stuff to do. I got a life to live. So there it is, y'all. See everyone on the next one.